All right, welcome to the call. We're going to go ahead and get started here. First, before I begin the seminar this evening, I want to share some important notice for you all, and that is that this presentation is informational purposes only and is not designed to say that we're affiliated with any type of government or Social Security Administration or government agency. If you want specific information from Social Security, you can go to ssa.gov, or you can also go to the IRS for tax guide codes. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this. All right, welcome. My name is Carlos Bastardo. I am your financial professional this evening, and I represent American Insurance Brokers and AIB Financial. I was born in Gary, Indiana, and a U.S. Army veteran. I was a medical specialist, and after getting out of the military, I wanted to stay in a field where I could continue to help people. So for over the last 30 years, I've been helping companies, families, and individuals with their financial services and insurance needs. Married to my lovely wife, Deborah Bastardo, with a total of 6 children, 2 dogs, and we reside our businesses here in Plymouth, Indiana since 1997. All right, so warning, we stick around until the end for a special offer for attending this evening, something that's going to be a beneficial resources to you. Stick around to the end. We'll try to get through this as fast as humanly possible while still sharing some great information with you this evening. All right, so let's talk about the reason why we are all here today, because retiring today looks a whole lot different. So this isn't your grandpa's retirement. I remember many, many years ago, my grandfather retired from the mill. He took all of his life savings as well as, of course, he had his pension for about 70% of his income. Took his life savings, went down to the local bank, deposited, and lived off of 10% interest. I mean, 10% interest for something that was locked in and guaranteed during that time period. We've seen a lot of changes. CDs aren't near worth as valuable as much today, so we can't do that. We have to find other mediums and resources to do that. So some of the things that we're going to discuss this evening, number one, of course, as we talked about Social Security, as you saw in the advertisement for this event, Social Security basics, the 2015 Bipartisan Budget Act, why timing is so important. And let's talk about the history of Social Security. As most people know, you guys are probably aware that President Roosevelt, on August the 14th, 1935, brought into act the general welfare and the Social Security Insurance Program, designed to pay retired workers age 65 or older a continuing income after retirement. Now, something I want to stress here is that Social Security was designed as an insurance program, right? Not a cash fund, as some people are trying to, get into Social Security or borrow from Social Security. And, it was originally designed as an insurance program for those of us who's paid in for years. And when it's time to finally start taking back, right? So we have to remember that that's important, that it was designed as an insurance program and not just the slush fund. So this story wouldn't be complete unless we talked about Ida Mae Fuller. And basically, Ida Mae Fuller, back in January 31st of 1940, she was the very first recipient of Social Security. Now, as I'm sharing this story with you this evening, I really want you to think about how Social Security worked out for Ida Mae, and is it going to work out for you the same? Okay, so here's the interesting part of this story. When Social Security first came around, Ida Mae had paid in her total accumulated taxes of her salary for those 3 years was a total of $24.75. Again, you got to remember, this is back in the 40s, right? In 39. So 3 years accumulated taxes for salary, $24.75. And then, of course, wouldn't you know, she retired, started collecting Social Security. Matter of fact, she was the very first person to receive a check, and her very first check was for $22.54. Again, let me repeat that. She paid in a total of $24.75, and her very first check was for $22.54. Right? So during her lifetime, of course, she happened to live to be 100 years old, and she passed away in 1975. So she collected a grand total of $22,888 in Social Security benefits. All right, now think about that. That's huge, right? But as we talk about this, I want you to really think, is Social Security going to work out the same way for you? Now, for Ida Mae Fuller, it worked out great. I mean, matter of fact, she crushed it, right? She put in $24.75 and took out $22,000. I think most of you that are watching this tonight know that that's not going to work out the same for you, not even close. So let's talk about the Social Security basics. Number one, when can I file? Well, we have a minimum age for Social Security, which is age 62. So at age 62, as of current, right, you can receive a 75% Social Security benefit based on 100% of what you're supposed to receive. So if you're supposed to get $2,000 a month, you're going to get $1,500 a month. Okay, 75%. Now, if you wait to your FRA, and a lot of you that are probably watching this presentation, you're right in between that. You were somewhere between 66 and 67, or 66 years and 7 months or 9 months, whatever it is. But when you get your statement from Social Security, it shows you when you're eligible for your FRA, which is your full retirement age, right? And at your full retirement age, you will get 100% of what you're eligible to receive at that time based on what you paid in. Now, wait a minute. If you wait until age 70, then you can actually receive a 32% bonus above and beyond what you're supposed to receive when you're 66 or 67. Now, I know what a lot of people are thinking. They're thinking, wow, I'm going to go ahead and wait till I'm age 70 so I can get that bonus. Well, hold on a minute. It doesn't quite work like that. It's important we understand some information first, right? First of all is the big one, which is the Bipartisan Budget Act of 2015. So the Bipartisan Budget Act 2015 stated, number one, that Social Security would no longer be funded by disability after 2022, the start of 2022. Here we are, more than halfway through 2023. This has already been over with for over a year and a half. So this means we no longer have any money that's going into Social Security from the disability fund. The file and suspend strategy, they took it away, phased out 6 months from effective date of the new policy, no longer available. To understand what this is, this was an awesome strategy that we've used for our clients for a year, where, the older spouse, you have an older spouse, and then when the younger spouse would turn 62, the older spouse would go ahead and file for Social Security benefits. Then the younger spouse, age 62, would go ahead and file based on their spouse's full disability benefit. And then number one would go back and suspend theirs and wait till age 70. So it was a pretty cool trick we could use, and you could jockey that back around. And in fact, if the secondary spouse that started at 62, if they wanted to switch out at age 70, if it's going to be worth more money to them, they could even do that. Well, all those little tricks that we used to be able to use they're gone. So file and suspend is no longer a strategy that can be used. And then, of course, restricted applications, no changes to survivor benefits, and not available for filers who turn full retirement age after January 1st, 2020. All right, so we took 3 big hits there. We lost the source of funding, we lost a fantastic strategy, and of course, we gained more restrictions. Now, let's talk about why planning is so important, and the biggest reason why a lot of you are watching this right now. And let's kind of take a snapshot. We're going to use an example of Ron and Nancy. I don't know if whoever wrote this slide happened to be a big Reagan fan, but we have Ron and Nancy here. Ron is age 60 and Nancy is 58. And at their full retirement age, their FRA age, right? Ron is due to get $3,011. So that's at age, 67 in his case, right? And Nancy is due to get $2,235, right? At her full retirement age. Now, obviously, since there's a difference in those two, that means Ron just happened to earn more and pay more into Social Security. Okay. Now, Ron's life expectancy is age 85 and Nancy's is age 90. Why? Because as we all know, gals happen to outlive men more, right? So 85 to 90 is the ratio on that. So let's assume they both decided to start their early Social Security income. And at 62, Ron turns 62 first. He pulls his income trigger, and then Nancy pulls hers when she's 62. And provided they both live to their life expectancy age, cumulatively, they both would have received $1,659,000 in Social Security benefits. Now, hold on a minute. Let's assume Ron and Nancy waited till their FRA age, their full retirement age. In their particular case, happened to be 67. If they waited to their FRA age, providing they lived to their life expectancy, then they would have received a total of $1,944,000 in Social Security benefits. Okay, but hold on, there's one more, and that's the bonus, the 32% bonus. They both waited to age 70, pulled that income trigger, and lo and behold, they received a total income benefit if they lived to their life expectancy age of $2,126,000 in Social Security benefits, which is a total difference of $466,000, right, from filing early to waiting for that bonus. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. You're thinking, so Carlos is saying go ahead and take Social Security, wait till age 70 and get the bonus. No, I'm not saying that, because what's good for me is not good for somebody else, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of variables that we have to take into consideration when we look at these particular things. Number one is, life expectancy. So some of the questions I ask when I'm speaking with financial clients is, what's your family history like? What kind of age did the men in your family live to be? Sometimes I get weird looks. People are like, why are you asking those questions? And I'm like, well, because it's important to understand what might be a better option for you. For example, I was doing a life seminar one time, and a gentleman came up to me and he said, he says, the men in my family don't live, have massive heart disease, and they don't live to be very old. Matter of fact, the oldest family member only lived to be age 72. And I said, well, how is, heart disease working out for you? He says, oh, I'm doing way better than the others. I've only had 2 stents and 1 massive heart attack. I was like, okay. So this gentleman was, only 60 years old at the time. So do you think if I'm speaking to somebody like that, that my advice to them is going to be to wait to age 70 to get the bonus? Or maybe it would be a better idea for that person to start receiving their Social Security early or at their full retirement age, right? We just don't know, right? I'm going to tell that kind of person, you might as well file early and get the most out of Social Security. For me, I'm fairly healthy, a little bit older than my wife. So my goal is, as long as I'm capable of still working, is to wait to age 70, then file for my bonus. And when I pass away someday, of course, it should be before my wife, then she can give up her Social Security and actually take mine, because mine is worth more. So they can be traded out. The spouse that's not receiving as much Social Security benefits can swap out for the spouse that is receiving more Social Security benefits. Okay, but that's my particular goal. So we don't know. Again, when I'm talking to each client, I have to figure out these variables to know when is a better opportunity to look at starting to take Social Security benefits. All right. So that's very important to understand. So first off, one of the things that we always welcome folks to do is to get your customized Social Security report. Now, you get something from the government every year that shows your Social Security and your benefits and all that stuff. But what we do is we actually itemize it and put together a nice Social Security report along with other income strategies that can show you when might be the best time for you to actually start taking your Social Security benefits. And for a lot of people, that's very important. And you kind of really only have one shot, if you know what I mean. So let's talk about taxes and inflation in retirement. We'll discuss quickly about historical tax rates, where a tax is going, Roth conversions, RMD planning, and inflation. Let's go ahead and jump into that right now. Well, we're all aware of the U.S. national debt levels, right? We started out back in 1970, we were only $371 billion in debt, right? Only 307. I'll never see $371 billion in my lifetime, right? But we can say only because as of recent, we're at 30, at the end of last year, the calendar year, we were 30 million, over 30 trillion, I'm sorry, in debt, almost 31 trillion. And now we've settled right at around 32 trillion so far for this year. So we do have a problem in this country when it comes to spending, right? And we're not going to get political about this because, all parties spend. It's the fact that our government continues to spend on these different things that affects us all as individuals. So we have a problem. And if we look at the 10-year Treasury yield, in fact, if we look back to 1981, right, when the Treasury bill and the interest rates were, they were at 15% as far as the Treasury bill yields. And we had tax rates that were above 50%, right? So, matter of fact, just recently, we have got to celebrate the lowest tax rates in our lifetime for most of us, right? And I can be confident when I say that we will probably never see in our lifetimes, between myself and you that are listening to this, in our lifetimes, we probably will never experience the lowest tax rates that we've seen within the last decade, right? So we know that we're going to continue to follow trends in history, and we are going to start going back up. I'm pretty sure you're aware of that. So let's talk about the Secure Act of 2020. So what were some of the changes that occurred? Well, it increased the RMD starting age from 71 or 70 and a half to age 72. Well, what is RMD? RMDs are required minimum distributions. So when a lot of folks first heard this, they said, whoo, I got an extra year and a half now before I have to start paying taxes to Uncle Sam. And I just kind of look at them with a smirk on my face and I say, stop it. It's not that big a deal, right? All it does is it makes the math a little bit easier for Uncle Sam when it comes to taking your taxes. They're still going to get their taxes. But let me tell you what did happen that is a big deal. They eliminated the stretch IRA for non-spousal beneficiaries. Well, what does that mean? That means when the last of you two, right, you and your spouse, when the last one of you two passes away, and those, let's say you got $1 million IRA and it gets passed on to your non-special beneficiaries, in other words, your children, and now your children have to liquidate that entire IRA within the next 10 years and be done with it, because Uncle Sam wants 100% of their taxes out of that IRA. They can no longer be stretched, right? So I want you to think about this, because your kids, whatever they're doing in their lifetime right now, they're going to be probably at the highest earning potential that they're going to see in their lifetime. Now, they may only be a janitor in a high school, right? But they're probably at the highest earning potential because they've been doing it for a while. So when you drop that $1 million IRA on them, their tax benefit goes from minimum to substantial. So by changing some of these laws, that the ways that they have occurred, now those IRAs that you have can become a huge gift with a big string attached to it if you don't do proper tax planning, right? So when you saw the subject of the seminar, it's Social Security and income planning. Income planning means planning properly for income, which includes taxes, which is a very big part of retirement. But a lot of people don't understand that, right? And it's very important that we do discuss that along with Social Security. So this is huge, folks, okay? Also removes contribution age limits for IRA accounts, increases automatic 401k enrollment from 10% to 15%. There's a big reason for this, and you're going to find out why here in just in a moment. And encourages the use of annuities and qualified employer plans. So let's talk just a hair more about minimum distributions, the RMDs. So RMDs now, as we just discussed, begin at age 72. You can take more money, but not less. So when you need income, RMDs become a tax problem because the more money you take from qualified accounts, the more taxes you have to pay. And folks, this can cause huge problems for you, not only in the amount of taxes that you're paying. Now, all of a sudden, Social Security becomes taxable after you make a certain amount of money. And it can also cause problems with you having to pay more money into Medicare. Because if you exceed a certain income limit, now you have to pay IRMA, which is an income modified account, penalty that you have to pay as far as IRMA. Okay. Now, here's the big one. Failure to take an RMD can result in a 50% penalty. That's huge. Do you know that this is the highest percentage penalty in the IRS tax code? Failure to take your money when you're supposed to, right? And who's helping you decide how much you should take and where you should take it from? A lot of clients that we talk to, you know, they have 4, 5, 6, 7 different IRAs or mutual funds, and they're trying to figure out if they don't have somebody to help them successfully do this, you know, where to get it from and how much to take. And that's a huge penalty that you can potentially pay if you don't do it right. We help folks do that. We can put them all together to let you know how much it is and even where to pay it from. Okay. And then forecast RMDs to develop an income plan. So where experts think tax rates are going? Well, folks, I'm here to tell you, we don't need experts to tell us. Excuse me. We know that tax rates are going up, don't we? So understanding your qualified accounts. Now, this is important, and I want you to really pay attention here. Right, 7.3 trillion in employer-sponsored 401k plans as of July 3rd, 21. I wish I had today's number, because let me tell you what is going on right now and why this is such a huge deal. So as you know, over these last couple of years, we have had the largest generation in our lifetime that are turning age 62 and or retiring, right? And that's some of you, the baby boomers. So we have over 10,000 people retiring per day in this country. Now, some of you are thinking, well, I've heard that number, but what exactly does that mean? Let me tell you what that means and why you should be concerned about it, right? So as we get more and more people that are retiring, that's less people that are paying into Wall Street, paying into their 401k and their IRA plans. So not only do they stop funding the 401k plans, what do they start doing? Right? A lot of them start taking money from their 401k plans. And then the other thing they do is what? You know the answer, they apply for Social Security benefits. So as we have this massive amount of people that are retiring daily, you can almost start to hear this sucking sound of money coming out of Wall Street plans. That's why they increase the minimum participations in these plans to 15%. Right? So we have a problem, not only with Social Security, but again, with money coming out of the Wall Street plans. Most folks are left to do it alone, limited investment options, and very few safe options, right? So some of you, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You start a job, you have a 401k available to you. You go and see your HR person to give you some paperwork to fill out. They don't really know what you select, and they just tell you to make a choice, and you kind of throw a dart at it, and you're picking options for your future, for your retirement. Not all of you, but some of you, right? And very few safe options. So knowing and understanding your 401k investments falls on you ultimately and nobody else. So it's important for you to understand these things. So what are the different options that are available to you? Well, number one, you can do nothing, continue to defer and pay unknown taxes later. Okay, that's an option. Or, sorry about that. Or option two is you can pay taxes now at a known rate versus an unknown rate in the future. And we talk about this because we know that taxes are going up. We've already seen the increase. Prime's at 8.5%. It's the highest we've seen in the last couple decades. So we know taxes are going to continue to go up over time. So we get a lot of people that come in and we look at their information, and it comes from their big box, retirement guy that you can find on every street corner out there. And their statement says, we are not tax consultant. Please consult your financial consultant or your tax consultant, right? So they don't want nothing to do with the tax part of it. You have to go see an accountant for that. We have people that work within our affiliates, right, that do nothing but look at taxes and have programs specifically designed for taxes. And we have people coming to see us, right? For a lot of those folks, we would rather have them pay taxes now today at a known rate instead of higher taxes in the future. So some of you aren't being properly serviced by the big box financial guys out there, not taking the time to really explain these things to you. And it's very important to understand. And then option three is tax efficient planning options. Right? Remember, we talked about taxes and the fact that most folks will be in bed with Uncle Sam the rest of their life having to pay taxes. What are some of the things that you can do to change it? Contribute to a Roth. Convert traditional IRAs to Roth IRAs. Most folks don't know that you can do that, right? And there's a proper way to do that. Take tax advantage of living benefit plans under tax code 7702. It's been around for a long time. Look it up, tax code 7702. It's been around for a long time. Most folks don't know about it when it comes to efficient tax planning before they get ready to retire, right? And if we know there's a problem up ahead on the road, folks, when's the best time to take care of these things? If we see a storm coming, and we know a storm's coming, the best time to be prepared is what? Before the storm comes. Not while you're running around out in the middle of it, trying to find your home, right? It has to be taken care of sooner than later. A lot of folks get ready to retire and they get excited. They're thinking, I'm going to retire. I'm going to get Social Security. I got a great pension. I've got all this, that, and the other. And then they come to the realization, oh my gosh, I've got all these things I've got to worry about: insurances and taxes, proper tax planning. And do I want to take money or do I don't want to take money? And another big one to consider too, again, just real quick, is the Medicare, having to pay IRMA taxes. I made great money the last 3 years, and then I'm going to take a bunch of money out of my 401k when I retire. A lot of people get themselves in trouble that way. So it's very, very important you have a set of eyes, take a peek to see whether your plan is tax efficient. And that's something that we can do for you folks. Now, listen, I know there's some of you in this room, right, or watching this tonight, that have no plans on ever leaving your financial guy, and that's fine. That's not what this is about. All we're saying is it's important to get a second set of eyes on this to make sure that you're tax efficient. Okay. Let's talk about converting to a Roth IRA. No matter how many people I talk to, no matter all over the country, because we do these live and in person, this ultimately is the number one thing that people want to know about, right? Roth conversions may provide a hedge against future tax rate conversions. Taxes are a major concern for retirees, as they should be. Roth conversions allow you to pay taxes at today's rate, at a known rate today, versus an unknown rate in the future. No income tax is due on future earnings or withdrawals. That's also the big attraction going forward, right? And it does not count towards tax on Social Security benefits. That's another big one. So you're not going to get taxed on Social Security benefits for the extra income that you're taking out, right? You're not going to get taxed on your Medicare or your Part B or your prescription drugs, right? Because we created a tax efficient plan. But this has to be done a particular way. It has to be done right. Living benefits, tax code section 7702. We talked about that briefly, right? Contributions are now tax deferred. Gains are locked in annually. So you don't have to go log in every day and look at your stocks, whether they're going up, whether they're going down. I know a lot of you that have 401ks in the last 2 years. It's been an emotional roller coaster, hasn't it? We've seen a drop. I've had clients come in to see me that were down 40, 50% on their 401ks and IRAs, looking for help, right? So gains here are locked in annually. You only have to worry about this once a year. 100% principal protection for the life of the contract. Let me say that again. 100% principal protection for the life of the contract. That means no losses. Critical and long-term care benefits. A lot of folks are concerned whether or not if they have to go into a nursing home in the future, how are they going to cover those costs and expenses? Sorry about that. And most folks can't afford to buy a nursing home plan at an older age. It's extremely expensive. Okay. So under the tax code 7702, there are extra benefits that are built in for long-term care. Provides tax-free retirement income and no IRS age restriction or contribution limits. Right now, there's contribution limits if you have a qualified plan. What does qualified mean? It's pre-tax. You don't pay the piper until the piper's due. So let me ask you a question. If you're a farmer, would you rather pay taxes on the seed or on the harvest? Right? So there's still time to do some conversions and take care of some things before you get ready to retire. As long as you're age 59 and a half, you can do a lot of those things. Okay. We can help you with some advice on those particular strategies. Inflation, which is known as the hidden tax, right? So we have our regular tax rates that are going up, but another thing people don't consider is the fact how much inflation is going to affect us. And we know right now today that inflation is affecting all of us out there in this country. We look at inflation. I'm not going to go over all this, but we know a loaf of bread in 2000 was 126 and then went up to 331 in 2 short years. I mean, eggs, that's the one that really, eggs was crazy. I mean, I'm an egg eater. I love eating eggs. And it was 97 cents to $1.50, I think it was, for a carton of eggs. And then all of a sudden went up to, $5, $6 for a carton of eggs after COVID. It was crazy. So we know that inflation is going to affect us in the future. All right, let's move along here. So is your current plan tax efficient or is it inefficient, right? And is it factored for inflation? All right, so in this section here, we're going to talk briefly about market talk, depth of drop, recovery time, getting back to even, timing, sequence of returns, right? A lot of folks really get nervous or don't want to talk about this when it comes to market talk, because most folks, right, you got to know timing, you got to know what you're looking at when it comes to stocks and investing and selling and buying. And it's very difficult. A lot of folks don't have time to do it, right? But this is the area where I like to talk about this. One thing you'll never hear us say over here at AIB Financial is Bring all your business, come join our team, we'll make you more money. Now, some of you are going to put me in the crosshairs when I say this, but making money is not the most important thing, especially when it comes to retirement. I'll repeat that. Making money is not the most important thing. I'll tell you what is more important, not losing money. As a matter of fact, Warren Buffett once said, he said, the number one advice I give to investing is never lose money. And rule number 2 to investing is never forget rule number 1. Yet in our country, we've accepted loss as being normal, right? Put your money in a market, it's going to go up and down over time. You're going to lose money, but you're going to get it back, right? But timing is everything. We don't know. In fact, I'm going to prove to you that money is not the most important thing. I'm going to do that right now with this example, right? So why does somebody like myself even exist? Why do you need somebody like a Carlos out there, someone like me, when it's so easy? You could retire, take your $100,000 down to the local big box guy on the street corner and say, hey, I'm looking to invest my money and I want to make some money. What do you got? What's the best you got? And he says, well, Joe Advisor says, well, we've got this mutual fund that averages 10% a year. So you take your $100,000 and you invest it into this mutual fund. Year number 1, it loses 50%. Well, let me back up for a second here. Now, I want to talk about this strategy a little bit deeper because this is important you understand this. So you think, okay, and for a lot of you, it's a lot more money than this, right? So you think, okay, if I invest my money, I get an average of 10% each month, and I only take 5% each month as income, right? I'm only spending 5%, I'm making 5%, right? So that's the theory and the thought behind this whole thing. So let's look at it. Year 1, mutual fund loses $50,000. That's a big hit, right? But don't worry, you didn't touch your money. You left it there. And sure enough, year 2, it comes back 50%. Phew, all right? And then year 3, well, it gains 30%. So after the end of the 3rd year, Joe Advisor calls you up. He's all happy on the phone. He says, hey, in year 1, right, you had a 50% loss, but don't worry, year 2, you made that back. And in year 3, you actually gained 30%. So if we take 30%, we divide it by 3 years, that equals a 10% average return. Woohoo! There you go. You don't need me. You don't need somebody like me. You got this all figured out, right? I don't think so. Why? Because Joe the Advisor likes to use what we call Wall Street math. But let's be fair. Let's see what this looks like when we use real math. So we're going to take this exact same scenario here. Mutual fund using real math, invest $100,000 into it. Year 1, it loses 50%. Now we're down to $50,000. But year 2, we earned 50%. Now how much money do we have, everyone? Did one of you say 100,000? You'd be wrong, because if we gain 50%, 50% of 50,000 is only 25,000. Therefore, we only came up 75,000. Okay. Year 3, it earns 30%, yet we're still not even back to our original $100,000 that we put in there in the beginning. Aha. But Joe the Advisor at the big box investment store on the retail corner there told us we average a 30% return. Well, let's look at the actual summary. Rate of return after 3 years using real math shows us a negative loss and not a gain. It's not fair, right? When we go by Wall Street math versus real math. Now, what if you started taking that 5% monthly like we talked about? How do you think your portfolio looks now? folks, a lot of you are dealing or going to be dealing with this. And if you don't handle it properly and you don't get the right advice from somebody who understands this, you're going to have a world of trouble. Okay. Let's talk about the history of the bear market. So since 1948, there's been 13 bear market losses, right? We can go through all these numbers, but I'm not. We're going to speed this up and say the average length of day of a bear market was 344 days. And check this out, folks. The average loss is 32.4%. 32.4%. So for folks who are retired and they're working with limited income, this is a big deal. Not if you're still young and working, right? Let's look at it this way. If you're young, you're working, you're putting in, you can't touch your money anyways until retirement age, or you're going to pay taxes and penalties. Nobody wants to do that. So you're kind of forced just to leave your money alone. And of course, over time, your money comes back and you're okay. In fact, most advisors would tell you you're doing what's called dollar cost averaging. So when things are down, you're buying them for the same amount of money at a discounted rate. So you're getting more of it when it goes up in the future. But when you're retired and you're no longer earning income or putting into it, now you're selling those things when they're down. That means you're losing more money at a calculated rate. Well, I know some of you are thinking, well, I just won't. You won't what? You won't take money during those years? You won't go on the vacation that you guys always planned on? You won't do the things with your kids you've always wanted to do? That's not retirement, folks, and I think you know that. Let's talk about getting back to even. So let's just use 30%. We know the average is 32%. We're going to go with 30%, right? So if you lose 30% in a year, in any one given year, and we've seen this happen, right, within the last decade a couple times, and you get an average rate of return of 6%, let's talk about that. A real average rate of return at 6%, right? Then it's going to take you 6.1 years to get back to even. Now, that's only true if you're not taking income. But what if you're taking income and you lose money and you're still taking income? How long do you think it takes you to get back to even now? So this is a huge problem when we're no longer earning income, when we're no longer putting into the IRA or 401k. New math for retirees, I covered that on a previous example. So I'm going to go ahead and skip past that. But I'm going to go back to here because this is a very important thing here. All right. So again, when we use the tricky Wall Street math and we hear things like average rate of return of 10%, don't ever ask what your rate of return is. Instead, you need to ask, what is my yield? How much did it cost me to get those things? And for a lot of folks that come in for help with us, we'll look at their statements and look at their performances and they're doing in reviews for them. And, from time to time, I'll get a client in here and I'll go through this with them and I'll be like, so over the 30 years, your average rate of return was 9%. And they say, well, that's pretty good, isn't it? And I'd look them straight in the eye and they says, well, I don't know. They said, what do you mean you don't know? Mr. Advisor, you're supposed to know this. This is what you do for a living. Well, I don't know if it's a good rate of return until we see what it actually cost you to get that rate of return, right? What did it cost you to get that rate of return? And was it worth it to lose 40% to get an average of 10% or 9%? Okay. So again, it's very important, folks. Math is everything when it comes to crowd. We're going to start wrapping this up here shortly, I promise. Last couple of slides. Let's talk about sequence of returns here real quick. So here we have two identical couples, same age, right? They retire at the same time. They got $1 million each in their IRA, and they're both taking $50,000 a year in annual withdrawals. Okay, simple math. So time goes by, And in a 20-year period, right, couple number one over here has about $304,000 left in their accounts. They're starting to run out of money. And if they take one more big hit here, right, it's really going to cripple the balance on their account. But if we look at couple two over here, exact same scenario, they have $1.619 million left in their account. Well, wait a minute. They're both getting an average return. There's that word again, average return, right? Of 6.91%. They both have the same starting money in there. They're both taking the same amount of money. Why are these numbers so different? I'll tell you why. Because we took this here, flipped it upside down, right? In terms of years, we started out at the 20th year and worked backwards here, where we started out at year one here. The biggest differences are this couple took the bigger hits up front in the earlier years of their investment, right? This couple did the opposite. We turned it upside down, so their gains came more so in the beginning as opposed to the end, right? So all we did is flip it upside down. That shows you the importance of sequence of returns. And we don't have a crystal ball, folks, so we don't know when. We know they're going to occur. Losses are going to occur, but we don't know when they're going to occur. And when it comes time to retirement, we can't afford to take those losses at any stage, let alone in the beginning. All right, wrapping up here. This is our offer to you, right? Get your retirement income plan reviewed. It's extremely, extremely important to have it reviewed, because the only way you can actually have a plan, right, is if you put one together or you have somebody put it together with you. Problems with retiring today: longevity risk, fewer defined benefit plans, rising healthcare costs, challenges with portfolios, and inflation. How long will I live, right? We have to look at family history. Rising healthcare costs needs to be consideration. So a lot of these things that we can help discuss with you and walk you through the process. I have been doing retirement transitioning services for the last 30 years. Okay. So what you should expect from a financial professional like myself is understanding your needs, always put your best interest first, client education, written retirement plan, and communication and review. So taking the next steps: schedule your complimentary review, get your customized Social Security report, get your tax efficient plan established, and get a comprehensive retirement income plan review. Now, advisors normally charge big money to do this type of thing. I'm offering this to you at no cost. All you need to simply do is, if you're interested, is go to www.aibadvisor.com. Click on book an appointment. You can choose whether to come in our office if you're close by, or you can choose to do a Zoom meet, and we'll meet with you over a Zoom. Takes should be less than an hour just to go over some initial information that I will need, and I will put those customized reports to you, and you will never get a charge or a fee from our office. So I want to thank you for your time, for joining us this evening. Again, write that down, www.aibadvisor.com. And I look forward to helping you with your plan. Have a great day. God bless.